go quick through some of the housekeeping stuff while folks type in the chat, where they're from and what their perspective is. Same rules apply as they always do for these. The attendees are on mute by default, which I know is a little bit weird for us coming from all these Zoom meetings that we're in. The webinar is just a little bit different that way. And so if you do find that you have a question or you really want to engage in dialogue, feel free to use the chat functionality. I see that we have a couple folks who have already raised a hand, and we can certainly allow folks to talk if you feel that that would be beneficial. But I would ask that you send us that either in a private message that you'd like to talk, or that you would put it in the Q&A so that we can see that. By now, I feel like folks are used enough to Zoom that they can kind of get the gist, but we're always happy to engage in dialogue that way. We have some questions for our student panelists, as always. But if you find that you as an attendee have a specific question, we would absolutely encourage you to put that forward. And that way we can see if there are a pattern happening in terms of questions. We can highlight that before we get to our whole list. And last but not least, we will be recording as always, and that link will be going on our website, doorwaytocollege.org, as well as on our YouTube channel. So if you find that this hour was beneficial, feel free to share with colleagues, friends, students, whomever you like. I guess I haven't introduced myself, which was a little faux pas. I'm Allie Casella. I am the Director of Engagement and Advocacy Initiatives with Doorway to College. I'm here mostly to be Adam Smith's sidekick, and I'll let him introduce himself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Adam Smith, Vice President of College Access and Success for Doorway to College Foundation. Just a little bit about the foundation as people come in. Doorway to College is a national nonprofit organization dedicated to college access and success for all. In that vein, Doorway to College has mastered the virtual world, and we're doing virtual test prep, study skills around the country since 2013, live virtual prep. So we've kind of been in the Zoom world for a long time, in particular because many of our students do not have access to the best prep, not only because of their finances, but because of transportation and barriers provided in those things. So that's what Doorway does. We are honored and dedicated to providing this series for students that are in college all around the country to talk a little bit about their experiences and what they wish they knew next. So I'm gonna have our panelists introduce themselves, let us know what institution you're coming from, and oh yeah, we got some more people. Okay, so what institution you're coming from, what your major is. Yeah, that's good. So Tyler, do you wanna start us off?
Sure, okay. Hi everyone, my name is Tyler Heilig. I am currently a sophomore at the University of Kentucky. I'm a bio pre-med major.
Great, thank you, Tyler. Just to remind our participants, right? So everybody who is watching, if you have questions, please do not put them in the chat. Please put them in the Q&A box. Allie will be mining that as well as the chat, so we can make sure it's not just all my questions, that we're asking the things that you have for our panelists. We're also would ask our panelists, please put your name and the institution that you attend in the chat, as well as your contact information, in particular your school email, right? Because some of the folks might want to get in contact with you for opportunities or have different questions for you. So go ahead and do that as well. Danny?
Hi, my name is Danny Montes. I'm a fourth year at Oberlin College in Ohio. I am a bio major on the pre-med track.
Thanks, Danny. Danny's outside. Sounds good. Patricia, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Patricia Perry. I am currently a junior at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, and my major is retail and consumer sciences.
All right, Patricia. My guy, Luke. Luke, can you introduce yourself, please, and roll tide, Luke?
Roll Tide, Adam. My name is Luke Ratliff. As you can guess, I'm a student at the University of Alabama. First off, I want to say I hope everyone's safe and healthy and doing well throughout this pandemic we continue to go through. But I am a public relations major and I'm a senior at the university.
Seems like you were just a freshman, Luke. Just a freshman. Natasha, can you introduce yourself, please? Tell us your major, what you're studying, and where, please.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Natasha Jones. I study at Metropolitan State University in St. Paul, Minnesota. I'm at work right now. That's why I'm kind of a little bit more dressed up. Found a nice little space to come and speak with you guys. So thanks for having me.
Thank you,
Oh
Natasha.
yeah, I'm sorry. I'm a finance major and I'm a senior.
There you go. Senior finance. Get that paper. Olivia, can you introduce yourself and tell us where you attend, please, and what year you are and what you're studying?
Yeah, I am a senior at Oberlin College too, just like Danny. I'm a psychology major with a concentration in statistics, and I have a minor in gender and feminist studies. But I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, so.
All right. Outstanding, Louisville, Kentucky. Ariana Williamson, the melanin nurse. Can you introduce yourself and tell us what you're studying and where?
Sure. My name is Ariana Williamson. I'm studying at the University of Akron, and I will be obtaining my Bachelor of Arts in Spanish and my Bachelor of Arts in Science and Nursing this December, actually. And I'm from Youngstown. I'm in my last semester.
And I remember when Ariana was a freshman. I remember when most y'all were freshmen. Isn't that crazy? You all get older, I stay the same. So my co-host today is Ms. Farrah Sanders, and I'm going to have Farrah introduce herself, but I'm going to also give Farrah the first question. Farrah, what comes to mind when you think about self-care and self-management, and how is it important for high school students that are preparing to go to college, especially in this time, to manage themselves and to take good care of themselves? So first, introduce yourself. Tell us your major, tell us where you're studying and when you graduate, but also talk a little bit about self-care, what you've learned about self-care in your time, and what you recommend high school students do now to equip themselves to manage, not care for themselves, but also manage themselves, please.
That's a great question. Hi, everyone. My name is Farrah Sanders, and I am a senior at the University of Alabama, majoring in news media with a focus in sports communication and a minor in communication studies. And I'm also very involved on campus, so that is something that I wanted to add in before I start answering this question, because self-care and management is very important. It's crucial in college, and as you become involved and as you get more into your college work and your degree works, it becomes even more crucial. I'll start off with self-care. I make sure to devote time to do what I want to do. It is very easy to become what my mother calls rest broken in college, where your sleep schedule is just all over the place. And so what is referred to as your circadian rhythm, that's how you recognize, it's time to go to sleep. Okay, it's time to wake up. Your body clock, for lack of a better term, becomes off rhythm. And so that can affect your work. That can affect your productivity. And so making sure, okay, I say I'm going to go to bed at midnight. All right, I'm going to go to bed at midnight. Or I say I'm going to go to bed at 10 p.m. That's self-care. That's time management. Taking time to, I physically make sure, and this might sound silly because I'm 23, I make sure that I watch Disney Plus at least once a week, at least, because I am a huge Disney fan. If I don't have my Disney product at least once a week, it is going to affect my behavior. I am a huge, yes, I can name all the Disney princesses. We're not going to go into it, but that's very important to me because it makes me feel balanced. I prioritize the fact that I have things in my life that I enjoy, And so I'm going to do that to make sure that when I have to go off and do things that I want to do, that in the community, on my campus, and towards my degree, I can do that just as well. So time management and management, in doing self-care, that bleeds into time management. I have this right here. It says Plan with Faith. And it is full of just things that I have to do on a weekly basis. This is a pretty open week for me, but this is one planner. I have a planner on my phone and a planner on my iPad. All of them are synced up together because I will have at least 3 meetings a day, especially with this climate going on right now. It is very important for me to have at least 4 reminders on one event. So my phone is always going off, but it's very important to me. I'll have text reminders about Zooms. I'll have different things set up, especially in the digital age. It's so much easier, I think. My parents say it's a lot easier than when they were in college, to just make sure that you're using the technology that you have to aid in your time management. And that's really important. If you start out freshman year with that mindset, you're going to be so happy by the time you become a senior that you dedicated time to try to learn how time management works for you. It might not work. 3 planners might not work for Ariana. It might not work for Natasha. It might not work for Luke, but it works for Farah. So make sure that you have something that works for you.
Isn't that good? Isn't that good?
I'm interested in seeing what Ariana has to say about it, because I know that as a nursing major, that has to be very time consuming.
Well, and Ariana, you've been at the same time working in the medical field in the COVID age, right? I mean, you and I have linked up a couple of times, and you've been called in to work on a COVID floor. And,
Oh, yeah.
you know, can you just talk a little bit about managing that, but then also talk about what you thought college would be like as far as time allocation and what it's really like. Does that make sense? Yeah, please.
Yes.
Because I remember Summer Bridge with you and what you thought.
I remember Summer Bridge too. I will get into that. Being called on a COVID floor during a semester where it's already hectic as a nursing student, and as I said before, also getting a Spanish degree at the same time is unheard of at my school. Never done. Literally never done. And it's hard, especially with nursing classes. They're 5 credit hours. I don't know how other universities work. 5 credit hours is a lot. Usually 4, you're like, oh my goodness, like calculus is 4. We have 5 because we have a lecture, we have lab, and we have clinical on top of that. So it is hard to manage, especially when you're thinking about your health and you having to put others first is difficult. When it comes to how I thought college would be, I thought college was gonna be breezy, you guys. I was Miss Know-It-All. STEM had to tell me that my poop stunk, basically. And it did. It stunk really bad. Like the whole university smelled it. And honestly, it took some people telling me to focus and that you are not all that for me to actually be able to get down a little bit, get off my high horse. And it happened. And once I found that out, I was like, okay, college is not as easy as I thought. I do not have it all together. And I was fine. I really just had to have a come to Jesus speech. Actually, the whole office, everybody in here hearing me had to come be like, Ariana, it's gonna be fine. Because I had like a breakdown, you guys. Like I really thought like, oh, I was a 4.0 student in high school and I was doing this and that. And once anatomy and physiology hit me, I got off my high horse and it was hard. So making sure you have those people you can support and talk to that can be truthful with you and be like, hey, calm it down a little bit. Let's study, let's focus on what's important. That is important as well. And yes, Sarah, I have a planner as well. I'm attached to my planner because I have so many things. I'm also involved on campus. I'm the school's homecoming queen. I'm president of the Student Nurses Association, president of Alpha Kappa Alpha chapter here. It's like, literally my mind is going crazy. So I do have a planner. It's also very filled, as y'all can see. It's very filled. But I think one tip is putting deadlines ahead of time. I'm a deadline person. If the deadline's on Friday, I'm going to put the deadline as Wednesday because I'm not missing it. That's missing points. And I want to make sure I hit all those deadlines. So I would say that. I know it sounds crazy, and I study for tests 2 weeks ahead of time, but it has never failed me. So those are some good tips for time management.
Those are really good. Thank you. I think one of the things that is interesting for all y'all, and Farah and I just talked about this the other night, um, that you all need to learn to say no, right? Your job is being a student. And oftentimes, God bless our universities, but when we have rock star students that are on this panel, Farah's being called to help deal with issues of systemic racism at the University of Alabama. Natasha and I just talked the other day. Luke is leading the whole campus spirit work at the university. I mean, you guys are being called on to do roles that it's people like me, it's our full-time job. You need to let us do our job. And you need to also say, no, my job is being a student. I'm paying money for this. I'm trying to get where you are. Okay. And it's okay not to let the schools and the institutions suck all that out of you. And then there's nothing left for yourself, for your own mind, body, spirit, right? Your own family. So just continue to do that, right? And be mindful of that, because that's less, because that's almost addictive, right? That the school starts telling you how wonderful you are, right? Farah's so great. We need Farah. We're going to sit down with the provost and with the president of the University of Alabama, invite her to do this with Coach Saban. But I'm only here because I'm a student. They aren't paying me to do this, right? There's people that are paid to do this, right? And you need to hold us as professionals accountable to doing our job and recognizing your job as being a student. Ultimately, that's it. That's all that matters. And if you can do other stuff, great. Luke, talk a little bit about how you got involved, what you were involved in high school, and how that's kind of changed in undergrad, and what you recommend for high school students as they look for areas, like Ariana said, areas that are going to give them that sense of belonging and accountability and support.
Well, for me, in my experience, when I was in high school, I went to a small high school. I went to an early college high school. And we graduated 36 students in my graduating class. So there wasn't very much for me to be involved in, other than just, social ramifications, like hanging out with friends and stuff like that, which everyone does. But when I got to college, I was searching for something, for me to get into. And for a long time, I've been an Alabama basketball fan, and that was my thing. So when I got to college, twice a week, I knew I was going to go to an Alabama basketball game. And I did, and I've missed one home game in my 4 years at the university. And being there and being that presence and, being a, symbol of student, I don't know what the word here is, but being a student fan has earned me the opportunity to be called president of the Crimson Chaos, which is the official student section of Alabama athletics, in which I am now. And it's, for me, it all started with just being, that's what I'm involved in that sort of leadership role, being a student fan and student at basketball games primarily. But that started as just something as a reward for me. I work hard as a student all week. And at the end, after all classes are done on Saturdays, and sometimes on Tuesday or Wednesday, but mostly Saturdays, I'll go to a basketball game. And that's my reward for being a good student. That's the way I viewed it. That's the way I had to wire my brain to see it. Because if I didn't, I would lose track of where I was in school, and which was a problem early on, starting my second semester freshman year. But I figured it out, and I've worked myself into. I found something like, I think Farah said she has to watch Disney Plus, right? So for me, my Disney Plus is basketball, and when that's something for me to work towards. And I'm rambling here, but that's simply the gist of it.
No, that's really, really, really good. One of the questions, Olivia, that I have for you that Tyrone Wilson asked is, what is the one thing that you learned throughout college? Because now you're a little reflective, right? You're a senior, you can look back. What is the thing that you learned throughout your college career that has been the most helpful? as you're looking back? And we're gonna ask Natasha the same question. So Olivia, you start us off, please.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Well, I'm actually a transfer student, so I went to a different university my first year, decided it wasn't for me, and then came to Oberlin. And like I think some people have touched on, you kind of go into college thinking, I'm hot stuff. I got everything figured out. And it's really humbling to keep in mind that the point of being in college is that we're here to learn, not to know everything. And that's really been like, if I could just have a t-shirt that was like, the thing I learned in college is like, we're here to learn, not to know. And, even as a senior, and you go on and people start, oh, I'm so sorry. People start to, ask, well, how did you do this? Or, can you do this? And blah, 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 blah. And I'm rambling just like Luke said, but yeah, that's really, I don't really have anything else to say except that's the biggest thing is we're here to learn, not to know. You have to stay humble and just keep in mind that we're all going to make mistakes, and that's part of our learning process, and it's a community process. It's everybody's involved.
I love it. I love it. The community process is so important. Most of the people on this picture are my students, and y'all know you're going to be my student forever, like forever. And the one thing that students that I've worked with have is you're coachable. You have to have enough swag to be able to be coached, right? LeBron is the greatest because he lets people coach him. That's how you become great at something, is you be willing and confident enough to get feedback from others, especially others that love you and really care about you, right? That are going to tell Williamson, you ain't that hot, sis. Okay, I was the one that told her, okay, I think you think this is great. You ain't sat in one college class yet. Now she's pouring that same thing into other students and other people, right? So Olivia's point is really, really well taken. Natasha, talk a little bit about that same thing. What is the one thing that you've taken, looking back, that you've learned the most from during your college career?
That's a really good one. The thing that I've learned the most, and I feel like you kind of touched on it already though, with the saying no, because sometimes you can spread yourself like, way too thin, and be involved. Like I was a leader or a president of the Black Student Union at Metropolitan State University. And I wanted to say this real quick. I'm not a traditional student like you all. I think you might be taking day classes and things like that. Oh, meanwhile, I'm at work doing this. And so I learned to not spread myself thin. Like I didn't go straight from high school to college. I have a child that's who's a first grader. So I'm actually, while I learn and do online, I also do distance learning. Plus I have a full-time job as a staff accountant. So when I'm saying don't spread yourself too thin and use the word no, that should give you a strong foundation of, what I'm trying to say. So I think that's the main thing that I've learned. And I also learned that you can make certain mistakes. There's some of you guys probably never made the types of mistakes that I made in my life, but I can tell you that you can rebound and have amazing things occur. Like the main point of going to college is to get that good job and get that, that was the point. And I have it, you know what I mean? And I graduate in December. Yeah, did I make some bobbles? And whoever's out there listening who might have done the same thing, you can still achieve whatever you want. So just keep that in mind. You might, fall down, but we get up. I don't know if you guys heard of that song before, but yeah, that's something very important that you should know in college. Is you might make a mistake, as long as you learn from that mistake and you're willing to put in the effort to maybe I might have to do double the work sometimes or whatever, but if you're willing to overcome and learn from whatever you made a mistake on, you can always achieve anything.
Right. And the other day, Natasha and I were in a Zoom, and her child's behind her doing Chinese, I think it was, Mandarin homework.
Yep.
Just crazy. And the cool part about it is this COVID virtual era has really forced us to be forgiving of one another, right? in the times that we would have said, oh, that's so bad that I saw your child in the thing and they're screaming and your dog walks across and all that. Right now, everybody, just like you're saying, which is a really good point, we're all learning, right? A great coach once said, you're either winning or you're growing. That's it. There's no losing. And college is a part of it is the classroom. The other huge part of it is the external classroom. Oberlin is one of those places, right? Danny, talk a little bit about the external classroom at Oberlin, why you felt like a school, a small private liberal arts school was a fit for you, and why, in Ohio, you have a lot of choices. You have Akron up the road, you have Kent, you have Cleveland State, and then you have the big dogs like Cincinnati and Ohio State. Why Oberlin and that community was a fit for you, and how you think current high school students should make decisions on finding colleges that are the best places for them.
No, yeah, definitely Oberlin was a big dramatic change for me coming from Chicago, and it's just like 2.7 million people, and then coming to a little town where you have just like 3,000 students and a couple more thousand townies. It's very small. And then you look at other schools, like you said, Ohio State, and you think there's not going to be much to do, but once you get here, your mindset starts changing a little, because honestly, there's a lot to do on campus and many ways to get involved. Specifically for me, I got involved with the Latinx community on campus. If you don't know what Latinx is, it's just a gender neutral term for Latino, Latina. And then I also got involved with rugby, and that was a good way I got involved with like the rest of the schools in Ohio, because I got to go to Akron and other things and play games there, and like just create a sense of community within Ohio, which I was not expecting. But I would just say the outside of the classroom atmosphere does take a toll on you, even if with the classes that you're already taking, especially since I'm in STEM, you just feel like you're always doing work, but then you step outside to like do other things, and again you feel like sometimes you're suffocating. So I feel like one big thing you have to also do is learn how to ask for help, because again I feel like college there you're more independent in many ways, but there are so many organizations out there outside of classrooms that are willing to help you. Other students like seniors and juniors usually will like TA or be tutors for you, and they can help you as well. But definitely I feel that this campus provided a more private, I guess, because I myself will learn better just by myself and just like sticking to my schedule and just working and grinding it out. And here it just provided a more quiet atmosphere where I was able to concentrate more on my academics and not have a lot of like other things outside of this little town happening and like interrupting. So it made it a lot easier for me just to focus.
That's really good. That's really good. I understand the entire need to kind of just focus and make your own, I guess, a bubble, for lack of a better term. So this next question goes towards Patricia, and I just want to kind of know what it's like being an underrepresented minority in your perspective at your institution, and how do you navigate that? How do you prosper? Because I'm sure you're prospering and you're doing really well. Yeah, just let us know.
Okay, first I kind of want to start with, I guess, talking about like from high school to going to PWI. From high school, like I was more used to being around a community of like mainly predominantly African American and Latinx, and honestly that was the only dynamic in my school. The only like people that were white would be like maybe my teachers or like anybody like a not necessarily principal, mainly teachers though. The transition from there to high school, not high school, I'm sorry, to college, transition from there to college was I would say it was kind of a drastic change in environment, only because I was not used to being around a community of like anything that was a PWI. It's one thing for like people to tell you of what you're getting into, but it's another thing once you actually get into it. And so I think what helped me a lot during that time was that my freshman year, I joined something we have on campus called MMP. That's called, it stands for multicultural mentoring program. It's mainly for like students of just that come from many diversities and like just different ethnicities and everything. And that helped me a lot with like finding people that can relate to me, as well as still being able to branch out to others that, let's say, it's a completely different just world from me. And I really felt like I really just enjoyed the opportunity of like getting to know people who may not be from the same culture as me, but still we can still like connect on a certain level. Now, I'm not gonna lie, like it still has its challenges, and it did and still has its challenges to now. Recently, a couple weekends ago, we had a like UT. We just had a march, and it was for just all of the injustices that's going on like during today, and that's what I kind of love in a way of like at UT. Granted that like we do have a lot of issues that do need to be corrected, but I'm appreciative of like people that are still on this campus and students that still like come together to try to address the situations and not just say, oh, like this is just messed up and not do anything about it. That's what I really love just about the students in general. But I would say for students in high school, it's a transition, honestly. If you're not used to being around, if you're not used to being anywhere that's like a PWI, it can be a culture shock. I'm not gonna lie. It's just a whole different world, and I'm just like, okay. And you just have to get used to it and like still don't feel uncomfortable with addressing the fact that you might be uncomfortable. Don't be afraid to say, hey, I'm not used to this. And like maybe letting a teacher know, or like letting somebody, like an advisor or something, know that, just because you never know how that can open up an opportunity to have something switched around or changed for you. Me personally, that actually happened with me where like it was a class, I was the only Black girl in the class, and like it was difficult for me because I had like, it felt like I couldn't necessarily click with everybody like that. It's like everybody just had their own, immediately like go to groups. It was just like, so who gonna get in a group with me? So I had that problem, and it just, at first it would feel like something I really didn't feel comfortable coming to my teacher about, because like I was like, this is it's kind of like something personal, but I don't want to make it seem like I'm just like being so nitpicky or anything like that, or I'm just being an introvert. It's just genuinely, it's sometimes hard to connect, and it just happens. And so actually Miss Linda Adam Smith's wife, actually I talked to her about it, and I'm so thankful she just talked to me, and she was like, well, why don't you just talk to your teacher about it? And at some point I was like, okay, but I don't know about that. And so actually it kind of worked out for my good in a way that I talked to her one-on-one. And granted, she's a white woman, but I don't think, it's like she can I can tell her about it, but like understanding where I'm coming from may not always connect. And so she sympathized as much as she could, with me, and we were able to like arrange it in a way that just, it was able to work for me. And so, yeah, just never be afraid to voice what you feeling or what you thinking, and don't let anybody invalidate your feelings, especially on a PWI, because like you gonna feel something at some point, and stuff happens.
Am I allowed to interject and say something, Adam?
You can go ahead.
Of course you can.
I'm so glad you said that. And yes, being the only Black girl has literally been my whole college career. Our nursing program is on a predominantly white institution, and I have been the only Black girl in all clinicals except one. Clinicals are 9 to 10 people. I was always picked on. I like the hair. That's a new style that looks exotic. Always picked on. I remember one time I got basically points off, which is bad, and it was for inappropriate appearance, for a nail color that was within standard. And I had asked the teacher, like, okay, that's fine. Even though this is on protocol, she's like, well, the hospital says no nails at all. I'm like, okay, cool. I walked, actually that week, my white counterpart had neon orange nails on. Mine were skin tone, my color. She didn't get dock points. I said, you know what? All right, I'm gonna wait till next week. She had on purple the next week. I went to my teacher, said, is there a reason why I got docked off points, had to take off my nails, and this is her second week with acrylic neon nails? Oh, I didn't pay attention to her. I'm sorry. Oh, so you didn't pay attention to her. So the black girl is the reason why you paid attention, because I stick out, right? That was the point where I got angry, and I said, I'm gonna make it to where if you're looking at me, it's for a good reason. I stand out in all my clinicals, people ask me for help. If you're gonna stare at me, I'm gonna make it a very good look, because I hated that. I made sure I was a president of Student Nurse Association, and they're gonna hear about Black culture and every other culture in between, because it's just not fair. So they're gonna hear about it because they're gonna have to take care of a patient one day, and this is not it. So I'm so glad you said that, especially in the medical world. Yes, people of color are not treated as their other counterparts. Like, even though it's a women-dominated field, I've been talking to nurses, and I'm part of a Black Nurses Association, we're still on the bottom. It doesn't even matter. And even if a white male comes in who's the minority, they'll get a position over a nurse who's been there for 10 years, and I've seen it with my own eyes. So you really have to work hard and show out in cases like that, because people are looking at you, and they are, honestly, in a world, they grew up with these prejudices that you just have to just steer out and be that thing that changes their mind. It's hard. Trust me, it is not easy, but you really have to have that faith inside you. Like, you know what, this ain't right, but I'm going to change their mind today. Thank you for saying that, Patricia. I'm so passionate about that. That's why the Melanin Nurse came about. That's why my YouTube channel came about, because we're not, Black nursing students aren't given advice. There's hardly anybody I could count on. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm about to tutor today, because I never knew anybody who's a Black woman in nursing I could go to and ask questions. I was always shut it out. People were cheating on their first year. All the white students passed, and then we failed classes. So, but they didn't ever get in trouble. They knew, but they never got in trouble. So being on a predominantly white institution can have its ups and downs. So it just gotta work with it.
Well, I appreciate what both y'all are saying, and I'm so proud of y'all. I think one of the things that I've told all you guys, you're preparing now for life after, ... right? You think this undergrad stuff, this is PWW, a predominantly white world. So, Lord, you better be ready, okay? If you don't learn to speak up, speak out, say what look, let's get in some good trouble, right? I mean, that's fine. Whether it's about race or gender, right? Whether it's about orientation or class or physical challenge, the world only changes when you say something. What's somebody gonna do to you? Take a little job? Well, it's just a job, bro, okay? John Lewis walked across a bridge, almost died. So we have an opportunity to vote, right? So all of the things that y'all are saying is so brave, but it's also preparing you. I mean, I know part of this is all about preparing high school students, but the next phase, college was about preparing you for life after. In college, when you graduate college, it isn't the end, it's just the beginning. And be ready for that PWW, because it's coming. It's coming. Ms. Sanders, you have a question, right?
I do. So I kind of, I identify with everything that was just said with Patricia and Ariana. I think it's very important to speak out. I think it's very important to also be able to identify with the people on your campus, be able to also identify with people that may be around your campus that, you share an identity, while also learning about different cultures as well, because as Olivia said, this is a growing opportunity. And so this question is just kind of focused. I want to see what Tyler has to say. Do you have friends that attend HBCUs or that you consider to be an HBCU, and how are their experiences different than yours at UK?
That's a great question. So I do have a friend. She goes to Howard, and I haven't talked to her much, but I did hear a little snippet of what she said about her university, and it's a lot different, especially with homecoming and like the band and like sororities and fraternities, because especially here at my university, University of Kentucky, the Black frats and sororities aren't as predominant as they are at HBCUs. So I got to see a little bit of one of the fraternity stepping today, which was kind of cool. But it's definitely a lot different culturally. And I've been going to a PWI, obviously. And for high school, I went to a predominantly white school. So I never really had that like that culture of like African American like people that look like me, because I think her name was, sorry, I forget who said it, Patricia. She was saying how a lot of people in her class don't look exactly like her, and I've been dealing that with my whole life, with all throughout elementary school and high school, and then coming here. And high school and middle school definitely like helped a lot with knowing myself and like being okay with who I am, because I am different from my counterparts at this university, and I had a lot of insecurities about that. But my parents, they sacrificed a lot and to get me where I am right now. And I did also, going back to the question, I did look at HBCUs, but when I was taking a tour, I felt like University of Kentucky had a lot to offer me in a sense of belonging, because when I took a tour, I did meet with some of, they were in the Black Student Union, and they were just telling me about this campus and like the feel of it, and just having that little like, I guess, moment, it was like, wow, like I do have a belonging like here. So it was really nice to like know that I do belong within like people that look like me and that have the same goals as me. So it was really nice.
Great job. Thank you so much, Tyler. So one other, I'm going to ask, we're going to kind of pivot a little bit. I know all of you, except for maybe Miss Natasha, are on campuses with residence halls and resident experiences, right? That are, some of our schools right now are really going through it. I mean, UT, Bama, right? Really going through it because of COVID. Talk a little bit about the class of 2021, because there was a lot of focus. We even did many, many webinars, right, Allie, on the struggles of the class of 2020. And it's been so hard because they miss homecoming and graduation. But we really saw the challenges of 2021, right, and 2022, because now they're virtual now for 9 months, 10 months, haven't taken their tests, are dealing with placement. COVID is just, hitting. Talk a little bit about some of the realities of COVID-19 and how it's playing out on your campus in particular, okay? And what you recommend, because we all hope and pray that things change, but my guess is best case scenario next fall, we're still sitting just like this fall, right? Bama hasn't even had a football game yet, nor has UT, nor has UK, nor has Oberlin. Oberlin isn't having football this year, nor is Akron. So we haven't even gotten to that point yet. So talk a little bit about how COVID has really played out on campus with students, with social distancing, and what would you recommend, because you're there, right? What would you recommend as the class of 2021 and for their parents in thinking about transitioning to campus next fall? Luke, you want to take that?
I'll take it. I'm going to be thinking as I go here, because I'm not really sure what to tell them. All my classes have been online this semester, but if I had one thing to say, it's just be prepared for the unexpected at all times, and be comfortable in your own company, which is different than what I've experienced so far through college. But be comfortable with spending time with yourself and being alone, and just be prepared for that, and be, practice self-care like we talked about earlier, self-management, because it's tough, especially if you're like me. I couldn't imagine. I'm from North Carolina. I go to school 500 miles away from where I grew up. I was the only person from the 5 surrounding counties that went to the University of Alabama. So when I got the UA, I didn't know anybody. I could not do that right now, because when I came, I wasn't prepared to manage myself and take care of myself. And I think, as we've all sort of figured out here, as COVID's gone along, being in your own company can be a detriment to your mental health sometimes, and can be a detriment to yourself. And luckily, I've figured out ways over my time that I can, sort of deal with my anxieties and stuff like that. But back when I was a freshman, I would have been lost if I, gone to University of Alabama and had to stay by myself for the whole time and go to class virtually and not be able to go to, on-campus events like football games. I don't know how I would have done it. But right now is a good time, especially for the class of 2021 that's coming up. They're getting practice at this, albeit that it's not fun, but it's not ideal. But they're getting practice at this and getting practice at being comfortable in their own company.
And the one thing, Natasha, I'm gonna come to you next. The one thing y'all know, the one thing that students take the best is honesty. Students can sniff folks telling them being disingenuous. When I tell Luke Ratliff I love you, Luke knows I do, right? Don't say it if you don't believe it, but Luke knows, look, Smith loves me. I tweet at Luke, Luke tweets at me. I like his stuff, and so I think one of the challenges to throw out for some of the schools that it's been is that folks at times, because of the fear of, well, I don't want them to get down, or to feel like it's okay just to tell folks, look, this gonna be normal. Thinking we're gonna have this is normal from now on. We just have to figure it out. And the businesses and the companies and the universities and the people that can thrive during this time are gonna be the ones that are being effective, especially people that are in the world of work. Like Natasha, I wouldn't call Natasha a non-traditional student. Natasha's a new traditional student, because there's more of her than there are of y'all. So Natasha, how has COVID played out, not only in the classroom at Metro, but in your balancing your responsibilities as a mother, working, all of those things? And what are some of the recommendations that you have for other new traditional students that are coming to college, whether it be this spring or next fall?
Sure. I would say COVID, in some ways, it kind of paused things. I don't know if you've seen Avengers, when the people they went into dust, but then they came back and they were still young. I don't know. It kind of reminds me of that. Certain stuff slowed down for me, just because everything was closed initially, stuff was locked down. So, and people expect you to work from home. So like I said, I'm a staff accountant. And so I'm able to bring my laptop to home, where I can come up here. I'm up here right now. And then it allows me to, in some ways, I get to spend more time with my daughter. Like Adam brought up, my child learns in Mandarin Chinese. So she goes to a immersion academy where they mainly speak that. And I don't speak Mandarin, but since I'm able to help her, I've been able to build up more of a bond with my daughter. And I can say a whole bunch of stuff in Chinese now. So so it's basically making us a little bit closer. The people who you reside with, you are learning to, overcome whatever type of other issues you might have had. You might be having new problems with certain people who you live with, but now you know how to navigate and how you have stronger conflict resolution, because you can't just walk off anymore. It's no, this person is stuck right here. So I would say my recommendations are to try to stay positive, look at things on the bright side, because everything in your world could be going perfectly, but if you have a negative mindset, you won't notice it. So that's the same. The flip side is if everything is falling around you and it's hard, but you are looking at it from a positive side, then it wouldn't matter, you know. So that's basically my recommendation for people experiencing changes with COVID-19.
It's excellent.
And
Natasha, I would be, hold on one second.
Yeah,
Let me
yeah,
just
sure.
get this real quick. Natasha, I would be a little bit, well, Luke, go ahead, because my question is gonna kind of go off. I know you have something you want to say about
Yeah,
COVID.
I'm sorry for interjecting here, but
No, please do.
sort of what Natasha finished with is, you know, looking at the positive side of things, which helps absolutely a lot. A way I've sort of thought about it, not a lot, but I've thought about it, is just how unique this experience is right now. This is like we right now, like the generation of students right now, are the only ones throughout history who have ever gone through this, through this particular circumstance. And, you know, just sort of try to relish in the uniqueness of the new college experience, the new learning experience, if it is at all possible. And there's, you know, just sort of look at the positive side of things.
I love it. I love it. One of the things, and Natasha, I want to ask you one follow-up. Luke, that was great. I'm glad you interjected there. The one thing I don't want to not talk about is you're in the Twin Cities, right? What I like to call the epicenter of change. George Floyd died about 5 miles from where you are, right? Talk about how that death, the social justice campaign, Black Lives Matter, has impacted your well-being, how you've been involved, how students haven't been involved, because people like to paint that the Twin Cities burned down, right? I mean, right? Very, very different from my hometown. So talk a little bit about how the George Floyd murder and how since then, how you were involved and how that shaped you as a student. Because Luke brought up a time in history where you're going to look back and say, hey, this is where I was to your grandkids. You also have another time in history where college students are at the forefront, right, of a movement to change our country. You're in that epicenter. You're in the place where the movement is, the nucleus is working out. Talk about how spring happened and what's currently happening a little bit and how that's affected you as a student, good, bad, or otherwise.
Sure. Wow. Yeah. I mean, as I was saying before, it got me a leadership position. So I was already a treasurer of the Black Student Union because I like dealing with money. Like I said before, I'm a finance major. But they gave me opportunities to speak. I went to, it's called the Metropolitan State Anti-Racism Coalition. And that coalition is actually derived from professors who work there, not students. And I volunteered with them to, you know, put a nice event together outside. This was the first event that we had since everything got locked down. People wore masks and we had to do special training. But I actually got a chance to speak to like hundreds of people in person and kind of let people know what I went through. And part of what I told people in the speech is that I was already a little bit depressed, obviously, because of everything being locked down. And like before it was normal to wear a mask, you know, then people started getting forced to wear them. So I started feeling kind of like we were sometimes surrendering our rights in the name of health in the first place. But I'm not a nursing major, so so don't get me wrong, but certain things made me feel, you know, like we might be losing our rights. Like it's a slow trickle down way to usher in something else. So, and then George Floyd happened right after COVID. And, you know, unfortunately, like I live out here, so I saw people looting on Snapchat. I saw it look crazy, like from looking at my phone, from some of my friends, what they were doing, it was just like a free for all. But I had to remain sane because, like I said before, distance learning is a thing. So I take on the spot of a teacher for my child. So I couldn't allow myself to feel all the emotional pain that was kind of building up in me. So it kind of goes back to that self-care that she talked about. Like I pray to the universe. Well, I believe in God, but if you don't, at least still thank the universe for everything you do have, so you can like get some release. That's how I get my release. That's how I have my self-care. But I would say George Floyd's death did give me an opportunity to speak out more about social injustice for sure, because people saw it more because they didn't. I don't know, for whatever reason, people thought it wasn't a thing until what happened with George. But a lot of us who live in these bodies know that we live it every day. But yeah, so I would say that it basically made it more real. It was weird you can see like people across the United States watching us, the Twin Cities, about what happened. And honestly, some stuff that was being reported on the news wasn't really what was actually happening. So like when they talk about fake news and stuff like that, I don't want to go too far into conspiracy, but it can affect your mental health and make it hard and challenging for you to be successful in class. But at the end of the day, like I said before, it's about your mindset. Like I said, everything around you could be on fire, but at the end of the day, if you're really trying, you plan on putting it out. If you have the tools necessary. If you just focus on the fire, you might forget how to put it out. So I'll just leave it at that. It's basically about keeping your own mind stable and strong, because I have to do it for myself and my child. I don't know if I added this before, but I'm a first generation college student. So all the stuff that I'm going through is me, the first time anybody in my family has ever navigated and did any of these things. So you can't be weak-minded, about it. So, basically, that's my recommendations. Use your brain, try to be positive as much as you possibly can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially in times like this where we have to we have to balance school and then a level of vigilance sort of, and maintain our survival in a certain climate. It's a lot to balance as a student in 2020. So I kind of want to shift just a bit, and I want to see how Olivia feels about just looking back on your entire college career. I think the majority of us are upperclassmen. Looking back on your college career, what are things that you may have wished that you took advantage of, or maybe things that you wish that you had done, participated in while in undergrad?
Right. Well, that's kind of a tricky question, because when I got to college, I was like, I am going to say yes to everything that I think will bring me growth and joy. And so I'm lucky enough to say that that's not one of my regrets, is that I feel that I've really taken, each and every opportunity that I thought would, be beneficial towards me or my community. And I did it. But what I will say is my freshman year at a different university, I went to a larger public school before I transferred here to Oberlin. I think that rather than figuring out what you want to do, it's more important to just get yourself to do literally anything, because you're not going to know if you like something or not, because when you get to college, you're a changing person. And you're not going to know if you like it unless you try it. And the hardest part as a college student, as an undergrad, is getting yourself out of your dorm and going to do it and meeting new people when you don't want to and you're tired and you're homesick. That's the hardest part. And so I would just say you really have to, kind of what you all have been saying the whole time, is just be in a very positive mindset and say, this is for my self-care. And even though I don't want to do it, that's part of self-care, is that, I might not want to do the self-care right now, but I know that I need to go do it. And the self-care is being involved on campus I think it's for most of us. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we all have to figure out, I like what you said about finding your things that bring you joy first. That was something that I definitely struggled with, because I didn't know what I liked in a college environment. So I was just trying to figure it out. Mr. Smith can tell you, I would just walk into his office like, I don't know. I know some of these people are stressing me out and making me mad. Everything else, fill in the blank. I have no idea what's going on.
I was going to really quickly add that if you do something and you're like, this isn't it, it's okay to say, thank you so much for the opportunity, but I'm going to go and try this now. That is like what you're supposed to do in college. You're not supposed to have everything you're figured out. Try it. If you don't like it, move on, do something else. Just try something. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I feel like if you're really lucky, you get to continue that practice in adult life too. I feel like, you know, practicing that in college, I, at least with my own life, have been able to apply some of that in my career as well. So practice now. I think that's great. And I didn't mean to jump in. I'm so sorry. I don't want to steal your thunder, Farah. I was just looking, I mean, I know honestly it was 3:55 and I was like, I'm going to be here all day. I never want to stop this conversation. But I know that folks have to get going, and I want to be mindful of the commitment that we made to the panelists. But I mean, thank you. Thank you so much. I laughed, I cried, I took notes, I learned from you all, and really, I thank you so much for your time. This was our final Educators in Unison forum that we are doing at Dorada College this year. We are picking it back up though in January. So I hope that folks, you will join us, the students as well as the attendees. And then I guess the only thing I'd like to add, in addition to my gratitude, is that this will be available on our website if you want to share it with folks both in your world and beyond. Thank you so much. Yay.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
Bye.